Hello and welcome for the very first episode of Just the Way It Is. So let's start at the beginning. So who am I, where am I, and why am I doing a video about a Multistrada you can't buy anymore? So my name's Carl, that's my real name. That's not a made up name for YouTube, that's who I am. So where am I? As you can tell from the accent, I'm British, I'm from the UK, but I live here in Germany. So where in Germany? So if you were to look at a map of Germany and have a guess to where the centre of Germany is and put a pin in the map, that's pretty much where I'm located. I'm in the county of Hessen. And just to give you an idea of the terrain we have here, we have more trees per square kilometre or mile than Switzerland. It's a very forested area and it's beautiful. The roads are just super. They're empty for the vast majority of the time. So, what am I doing reviewing an old Multistrada? Well, I decided it was time to give something back. I've been watching YouTube videos for a long time. I'm semi-retired. I am a fully qualified and trained motor technician, and I've done a lot of different things. And I use YouTube to help me with all kinds of things and projects around the house. One of my passions is gardening, and I just love to go on YouTube. If I've got a question about a plant or a shrub or something I'm not sure about what I need in terms of soil, whatever, I have a look. So as I went through quite an extensive process changing from Honda to Ducati, I decided it was time to share my experience. So what have we got? So this is a 2013-2014 dual spark, that's 2 spark plugs per cylinder, Multistrada. Now I've had Hondas pretty much all the way through my motorcycling career. There's been a couple of exceptions with a couple of Suzukis in there, and I've only ever bought one new motorcycle, and that was way back in 1990. I bought a brand new Suzuki GSX-R 1100L in blue and white with upside down forks. And since then, all of my bikes have been used second-hand bikes. So when you're buying a used bike, it's always a tricky process. You're never really sure what you're going to get, and changing bikes is and can be quite a stressful process. If you've got the resources and you can afford to go and buy a brand new bike, the buying experience is really quite different. So I wanted to share from my perspective what it was like to buy this. Now, a lot of people do reviews and they've had their bike for a day, a week, a couple of months. I bought this at the end of 2018, in fact January 2019. I'd reserved it and pretty much put a deposit down in the December of 2018. And I've done just under 20,000 kilometers, so 16,000 miles. So I think I'm in a good place to give you some history of what it's like to own, because buying a Ducati is not the same as owning a Honda. So I've got through 3 sets of tyres in that 20,000 kilometres. So what do I hope to achieve with these videos? So I'm going to try and make them one take. There's nothing worse than watching those YouTube videos and the person or the people have got lots of different cuts all the way through where they have made lots of mistakes. I'm just going to own up to it and say there's going to be mistakes. At the end of the video, once I go back and see what I've missed, I'll try and add some things in, but let's carry on. So, Hondas, that's where I was at. Hondas with a couple of Suzukis. In 2018, the type of riding I was doing at the time started to change. I moved into semi-retirement and decided I was going to do more touring, and I had a Honda CBR 1000F. I'll put some pictures up so you can have a look at those and carry on talking. It was a beautiful bike. I've had 3 of them. They've all been fantastic, totally reliable, never any issues with reliability or anything like that. So moving to something different was going to be hard. So in 2018, in the summer of 2018, I started looking. I went to Honda, road tested the Africa Twin, the Cross Tourer and the Cross Runner, the 800, the 1200 and the Africa Twin. And then after that I went to KTM. I tried the 1290R, mental bike, fabulous engine. I tried the 1290 Duke, That was a bit better, but still not comfortable enough, and not enough of a fairing, not enough for touring. I tried the 1290 Adventure S, and also tried the 1090. And there's a couple of other manufacturers that I tried, but at no point in my searching process did I even think about Ducati. Now, the reason why I never thought about it is, if, like me, you started your motorcycling career on a 50cc way back in the 80s, early 80s, very early 80s, you were on a Fizzy or a Honda or something. I was on a Honda SS50. And as my motorcycling career grew and I got older and I bought bigger and bigger bikes, I only had one friend with a Ducati, and when the weekend came, it was quite often he'd ring up in the morning and say, there's oil leaking, the clutch has gone, the battery's flat, I've got electrical problems, and I didn't want to have any of this. And this is why I pretty much stayed with Honda all the way through. So after road testing these bikes in the middle of 2018, I came away quite disappointed. There was nothing really that I found that I could road test, and while on the road test, I would ask myself one question: would I be happy going home on that bike and leaving my Honda? And I didn't get a yes. They're all great, they've got lots of very nice qualities, but with the advent of fueling and ride-by-wire, yeah, the mapping and the fueling is not so smooth as it is on carbed bikes. So after doing my road tests, I was really disappointed. There was nothing from Honda. I wasn't particularly enamored by the KTM's, fabulous engines, lots of electronics, wonderful dashboards, but it wasn't comfortable enough and it wasn't the sort of thing I was looking for. So I kind of gave up at in the middle of 2018. And then in October, I happened to go past a Ducati dealer and I went in. They were in the process of changing to the 1260s. The current bike at the time was the 2015 DVT, 2015 through to 2018. And I had a look, had a sit on it, spoke to the sales guys. And then that really started my process of having a look at the different versions, and there are lots of versions. So let's try and make this nice and simple. 2010 through to 2012 was the first Multistrada 1200. That had the Panigale engine, single spark plug per cylinder, and it was a fairly raucous bike. Absolutely loved it, really, really nice. But I couldn't find at the time a bike with the mileage that I wanted, low mileage, service history, and in a good condition. So I carried on looking. At the time, I wasn't really aware of this oddball, which is the 2013-2014 Dual Spark. It was available for 2-year models, but in actual fact, it was only really available for sale for about 18 months. They'd already started their development process of the 1200 DVT, which came out in 2015. Now, the problem I found with all the bikes that I road tested is the suspension, electronic suspension. Ducati called it Skyhook suspension, and what I find is they're really comfortable for normal riding. They're absolutely superb, and if that's all you do and you go on tour and you're not overly fussy about how the bike feels, they're super. So, straightforward choice. However, what I've always liked, I've never really been worried about what's going on the back of the bike. The back can be loosey-goosey. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the feeling that you get from the tyre to the road. And with the Skyhook suspension, it just didn't feel right. There was something strange, a disconnected feeling, and I never really got what I was expecting. So I tried different Ducati dealers, and I tried different places for road tests. And after one day, I went out on a 2013 S, which was the Dual Spark with the electronic suspension. And I really liked the bike, but I didn't like the way that the front end felt. And when I took the bike back, I just happened to bump into one of the technicians in the workshop outside having a coffee break. And I explained to him my observations and how I felt about the bike, and it was him that suggested I needed to find a base version. And he said that the base version of the 2013-14 was fabulous in terms of the standard suspension. You've got Mazzocchi 50mm forks on the front, sack shock on the back, all fully adjustable, and it took me some time to find one. The first one I found was not a very well looked after one, and I didn't get it. But when I road tested it, I knew straight away the feeling from the front, the connection between the tyre and here is really quite different to the electronic versions. So then it took me several more months to find this bike. So back in a moment. So that's a little bit about the bike. So what do I hope to achieve with these videos? Now my plan is to do a whole series. I've mapped out, I think, somewhere between 6 and 9. I'm going to try and cover as many topics as I can. Reliability, modifications, tyre choice, brakes. Brakes are really important. In particular, the maintenance of the brakes, the comfort, the ergonomics. There's a lot of different sections. So as we move along through the videos, this is part 1, this is the intro. Part 2 is probably going to be comfort. So I'm going to try and cover as many different topics as I can. And if you've got specific questions for either the 2010-12, the Mark 1, let's call it a Mark 1 1200, or this, the Mark 2, 2013-14, dual spark, or the DVT, you can let me know. And then as we move forward, I think I'm going to do some videos about touring. It's one of my passions, and here in Germany we have just got some stunning roads. And one of the other interesting things is, and you're probably not going to think about it, and that's hedges. In the UK, everywhere has hedges. So if you go out on a B road and you come to a series of knife bends, you can have a good pace, but you've got to be careful because you've always got hedges and you can't see around the corners. Here in Germany, farming's very, very different, and you don't have hedges. I would think, as a comparison, probably 5% of the fields have hedges, the rest don't. So when you come to the open roads, the B roads that are empty, nobody's on them, you can see a good mile, a good kilometre, and it makes a big difference to your riding experience. So as the videos are going to go along, I think in the next video I'd have worked out what I'm going to do, and you better have a look through and choose the ones you want to watch. So 2013, 2014, dual spark. I've had it for 20,000 miles, 3 sets of tyres, and I'm going to try and cover as much as I can. Ducati are very clever. When they started the 1200, the Multistrada, they realised they were onto a good thing right at the very beginning, 2010 through 2012. And they started to focus predominantly on the Multistrada because of the sales. So a lot of the things have changed as the bike has been developed. And what you'll find is that the packages that the S and the base and the touring have changes, and they've now got to a point where they know what they're going to offer, and they're going to segregate the base from the S from the touring packs. But in 2013-14 there wasn't so much of a difference, and this really worked well for you, because on the DVT, which is the 2015 version, the difference between the base and the S was significant. The brakes are very different. The brakes on the front, the discs are smaller, the calipers are different. You obviously don't have the electronic suspension, the dashboard's different, it's smaller and it's black and white, and there are other differences. But for the dual spark, the first 2013-14 version, they didn't change a lot. So you've got the same brakes that the S has got, everything's the same apart from the suspension. So they've removed the electronic suspension, the Skyhook, and you've got this manual suspension, which if you spend your time and set up your preload, front and rear, and your compression and rebound damping, you can really get it to feel super. Anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon on the next video.